Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Great Vocal Majority Podcast, your source for the conservative view on American politics and culture, and where the issues are discussed with goodwill, candor, and intelligence. And now, here's your host, Tony Cottaspoti.
Thanks, Duke. And this is Tony Cottaspoti with the Great Vocal Majority Podcast, volume number 65, entitled Progressives Playing the BS Race Card. Look, there's an awful lot of intellectual dishonesty going on when it comes to race issues in America. Pardon me now, it's total bullshit. The trouble is, too many people walk around believing this bullshit. You need some examples? Let me give you a few. Black people can't be racist. Have you heard that one before? Well, that's bullshit. Black people are just as capable as anyone of being racist. But the lie here is how some leftist academics defined racism in such a way so as to exclude black people. That's intellectually dishonest because people generally understand racism is defined as hatred of people based on their race. That makes anyone capable of it. You would think that decency and common sense would get the left to cut the crap, but it doesn't. Still, they argue, blacks don't have political power, so they cannot be racist. Well, that's bullshit, too. This isn't 1918. Unless you think having a liberal black president doesn't represent political power. Is there a better example of the manifestation of political power that's better than the President of the United States? What about having a black attorney general as the chief law enforcement official in the United States for 8 straight years? Doesn't this also represent political power? Were Obama, Eric Holder, and Loretta Lynch just tokens? Instruments of the white supremacist power structure? Give me a break. This is pure intellectual dishonesty. Oh, but the justice system is racist because so many black men are in jail. Sorry, but that's just another bullshit argument. But let me add something here that's important. That's not to say that there aren't people in prison who were falsely accused, but that's a far cry from calling the entire justice system racist. It's an established fact that young black men, a portion of the American population that amounts to only 3 to 4% of the total, commit the majority of violent crimes in the United States. And this is most clearly evidenced by the statistics on homicides. Young black men between 15 and 35 mostly commit an incredible amount of violent crime, far in excess of their numbers in the population, as those numbers would suggest, since they're only 3 or 4%. And we can argue over the reasons why they commit those crimes, but there really is no argument over the fact that they do commit them. And another bullshit thing is white privilege. This is a bullshit idea that was cooked up and served hot and steamy on college campuses everywhere across the fruited plain. Now imagine, if you will, reversing the roles and telling a black person what it must be like to be black. Nobody in their right mind would ever suggest that they really understand that experience, and no clear-thinking person would ever suggest that all or even most blacks have the same experience. But for some reason, blacks and other non-whites have been taught to believe that they have a bead on what it's like to be white, and they can lecture whites about it. And that's not just bullshit. That's insane. Then there's the ultimate bullshit contradiction we see from left progressives. The left progressives believe we evolve, or if you will, progress into new norms of society, and I think a lot of people accept that. Progress, though, is supposed to be moving forward. But it's really not clear that the direction of this progress is always forward. Nevertheless, less than a century ago, homosexuals were considered mentally ill. And very often they were chemically castrated or institutionalized for it. But today, they've been, for the most part, accepted into the mainstream of society. Progressives call this progress. We don't really know if it's progress, but time will eventually tell. Yet, while leftist progressives believe we can evolve beyond past accepted norms in the area of sexual orientation, they resist believing that we can also evolve beyond our past accepted norms when it comes to race, despite all the evidence that we are. We've come a long way. America has come a long way from the moment when Captain Kirk kissed Lieutenant Uhura. No matter how far we ever seem to move forward and beyond our racial past, leftist progressives often see little or no progress at all. Now, why would that be? I think the answer is obvious. It's about politics. If, as progressives believe, society progresses or evolves, then there will come a point when the laws enacted to protect certain classes of individuals will no longer be necessary. In fact, if those laws were allowed to remain in place after they were no longer necessary, that would end up becoming discrimination in reverse. A progressive society would be duty-bound to repeal those laws in the interest of equity. Progressives vehemently argue against this, and they say things like, there will always be racial discrimination. Oh, really? So that's the one area where human society will never progress beyond? Well, that's bullshit too. Progressives cannot have it both ways, although they're going to try. Either society and cultures progress and evolve, or they are static. They cannot be both. Unless, of course, the whole concept of progressivism is really bullshit. Which it is. That's it for me. I'm Tony Codispoti from GreatVocalMajority.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you liked what you heard and you would like to subscribe, please subscribe. You could subscribe either at the website or you can go to the YouTube channel and subscribe there. Thanks for listening. Take care.